Good afternoon and welcome to the Unemployment Law Project Monday webinar. My name is John Tierpak, Executive Director of the Unemployment Law Project. And usually we have Ann Paxton, our Policy Director, give an update on unemployment law, but she is not available today. So we will proceed. I want to give a brief update before we take questions. In Olympia right now, there's some issues involving funding for the Employment Security Department. Right now, there were over 800 temporary workers assigned in the pandemic era that are now going to be laid off, and we're encouraging everyone to write and call their state senator and their state representatives. I'm going to put this in the chat, how to find your representatives and senators. You go to the Washington State Legislature website. That's www.leg.wa.gov, and find your district, and you could write to your senator and your two state representatives and urge them to support fully funding staffing for the Employment Security Department, because as many as you know, the department's been very understaffed, even with the pandemic increases in staffing due to the demand, and there's an incredible backlog now. So also contacting the governor's office as well would be a good idea on this issue to make sure they fund staffing for Employment Security Department. Unemployment Law Project is a nonprofit law office in Washington State. We work with Washington State unemployment claimants, with Washington State Claims, and we have offices in Seattle and Spokane. We're funded through donations and foundation grants and other funding, occasional grants. We are receiving currently hundreds of calls every day with people with hearings coming up and questions. So if you are contacting our office and having difficulty, make sure to call back or wait, but make sure when you do call to leave a number that you can be reached at. We have a problem reaching people back. Sometimes there's no answers, sometimes there's no voicemail set up, or a voicemail box is full. So it's good to leave information and a message on how and when you can be reached. And then I just want to state again, it's important due to the pending cuts in the Employment Security Department's staffing levels, to make sure to contact your state senator, your state representatives, and the governor's office. And in the chat, I put the Washington State Legislature's website for that. So I want to go to questions. Put your questions in the chat, in the Q&A, excuse me. Let's see, the first question I have is about funding. Well, actually, it's about unemployment extensions, and whether there's any extensions right now. So right now we have regular unemployment, which is 26 weeks. And there are not current extensions that I'm aware of right now. The only extension that could be available possibly are for people who are eligible for what's called training benefits. And training benefits is a program that's it's a very narrowly focused program that focuses on short-term vocational training programs, and the ability and people who are in a certain job that is not in demand. And so we have these, that is another 26 weeks of benefits that is eligible. But right now, the claims are in the 26-week range. Okay, so let's see, go to the next question. Okay. Next question is about refusing a job offer. This person has been unemployed a few weeks and had a job offer. The company says that it is, well, they applied for a more local job, but they're being offered a job that's about 50 miles away from their home, and they want to know if they will be cut off unemployment if they refuse that job offer. This sort of underscores the importance that when you are doing a job search, to make sure that you apply for jobs that are jobs that you really want to take or within a reasonable commuting distance or within a reasonable pay range, that so that you're not in a position to have to refuse. Since this person didn't really apply for the job 50 miles away, most likely that would be considered an unsuitable job offer. So when you're claiming unemployment for benefits, you have to be able and available and looking for suitable work. And suitable work, of course, has to do with the pay, the skills involved, and the location, because traveling many miles a day can be a great hardship. And so there's not a precise mileage in the unemployment statute, but generally I've seen that if a job is like over like 40, 50 miles away, usually that's considered to be an unsuitable job. So if for some reason the adjudicator at ESD disagrees and believes that it is suitable, that it's somehow in your job market, to immediately request a hearing, read the letter. It would probably say something like benefits are denied because you have refused a suitable job offer. So that's but it's important to narrow your job search so that you're not put into a position, which you have to refuse jobs. But this happens a lot, though, when you apply for one job in a city or region where you live, but the company offers you something far, far away. Let's see. Next one. This person writes that ESD never sent a letter stating that claims are denied. There's a big overpayment. This person learned that appeal had to be filed. They learned about it because of collections. Let's see. In what we're seeing a lot is a lot of people have notices in their e-services account, and because people have stopped claiming, this deals with a past period of unemployment, people are often not getting the initial letters of overpayment and with the right to appeal attached. And what happens is people only find out about them later when there's a bill that comes in the mail saying that they owe a certain amount. It could be 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 or more. And the important thing is to get a hearing request in as soon as possible. In your e-services account, there is, you can go to, I think it's called Manage Your Claim. You can look at all past letters and notices, and in there should be letters going back, and there could be more than one. So make sure to read all of them and appeal all of them. Read those instructions carefully. There's in the letter, they'll probably give a reason for the overpayment. We're seeing a lot of overpayments now because people didn't provide or couldn't provide their ID information on time, or maybe it was because they were reevaluated for the pandemic unemployment and they found that it didn't quite fit into a category. Or another category is we see a lot of people who were asked for more information to verify their income in a certain period. There was this verification thing that was put into effect. And of course, people didn't see that because they were not actively looking at their e-services accounts. And so the way to deal with this is to request a hearing now. Now you can request a hearing through e-services by fax or mail. I would suggest doing it more than one way. And with these services, it's not just simply writing an email to ESD or sending them a message. It has to be through the portal that's attached to the individual letters to request an appeal. Now, if a person's getting billing now, probably these letters went out months and months ago, which the appeal would technically be late, but a judge can consider good cause for the late appeal. And we've been finding that many judges have found good cause in cases like this where a person doesn't get proper notice originally. Here, let's see. The person asks, what if no communication was sent? So this person contacted her state representative. Well, that's a difficult problem because, I mean, it should be there. Contacting your state senator and state representative's office and having them contact people at ESD to at least find out what's going on. There's a lot of ways once a case is appealed that an overpayment could be removed. One way is for the judge to find that the person was actually eligible for the benefit received. And then often cases of overpayments are removed because of the inadequacy of the notice being sent, or there's a concept called a waiver of an overpayment, that if an overpayment's not a claimant's fault and it's a hardship to repay, they can wipe out that overpayment. So there are ways to approach this. It's worth, even though the ESD staffing might be cut soon, it's worth calling the 800 number at ESD and waiting. You might have to wait an hour to talk to somebody to find out where the letter is, if you can, or find it through the e-services account. And of course, there are thousands of claims. There were over 1 million unemployment claims in 2000 and in the year 2020 and beyond. So they are way behind, and there are many problems. But I would pursue, again, follow up with your state representative, call the 800 number at ESD, and look very carefully through your e-services account. If you can't get into your e-services account, if your username or password isn't working, that's a reason to call the 800 number at ESD and get that worked out so you can get in there, so you get those notices to appeal. Okay, so I want to go to our next question here. It's a question about what type of documentation for job searches. So since July, they reinstated the job search requirement that you have to document 3 job search contacts. Now, there are a couple other job related things that you can do that would count as a job search. They should be listed on the ESD website, like watching videos or going to trainings or things like that. But in general, it's best to keep job contacts. And what I think, you know, I have had this question for many years about what's a job contact. you know. And I would say it's best to have something or some record of you actually submitting a resume or filling out an application or doing something concrete like that, and not just calling up a business and saying, do you have any jobs? And they say no, and and writing that down. That is some kind of contact, but it's really not a searching contact that's going to lead to employment for you. Now, what they consider too is what's customary in your field. Some jobs, people go in person, or apply in person is a common thing. Always make sure to document what business it was or who you talked to, what you did, in case there's any kind of audit later, because they are doing now, again, these job search reviews, where they would contact people and ask them questions about their job searches. So they suspended that during the pandemic a while, but this has been going on a long time. So it's best to make these job contacts as specific, as possible. Now, the question I've had is, well, does there have to be a job to apply to? Ideally, that's best. And you should be looking for suitable jobs that you could reasonably get, and of course, reasonably want or accept. But there are some fields where it's not common to post jobs, but you can send resumes to the human resource department, and that should count as a job search if that's customary in that profession. But if you're going to list 3 in your record, if you're doing maybe 5, 6, or 10 job contacts a week searching for work, the 3 I would write down for ESD purposes would be to do the ones where there was a job listed and you have a concrete record of something you submitted, like a resume or an actual job application. Let's see. So I see one more question, and if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A before we wrap up. Okay. So the question is about a person wanting to quit their job, and they're asking about medical reasons for quitting a job. I would suggest, again, to not immediately quit now. If you're still contacted, if you're medically unable to go in, don't quit at the moment. Call in and call it a sick day if you're in poor condition. But quitting and getting unemployment is a very tricky thing, in the sense that you have to show a compelling medical reason and have exhausted all of your remedies prior to quitting. Remedies including asking for a leave of absence or accommodations. So it's good to get advice on that. You can contact our unemployment law project office to speak to somebody for individual advice. But it's important to not just quit suddenly. What's best in such circumstances like this is to get medical documentation. First, go through the step of requesting accommodation or leave of absence with medical documentation. If that's denied, it's best to have a letter from your doctor advising you to quit. But when you do claim for unemployment, you have to be able and available and searching for work. And so it's important to make clear that the job that you had to leave was medically unsuitable for you, but you are able and available to do other work. Because if you're totally disabled, you should probably consider, if it's a temporary issue, for example, paid family medical leave may be a better option than unemployment. So it's important to read about paid family medical leave. It's on the Employment Security website, and that's a leave program of a certain number of weeks where you don't have to be able and available to work in that period of that claim. So that's an important thing to look to. But before you take any rash action, it's important to do some research, get some medical advice, and to pursue options prior to quitting. And paid family medical leave often is a better option for people. Okay, I want to go to another message that just came in. Would medical waivers apply to an appeal under HIPAA? How much does one need to state in appeal letter? Well, if you are dealing with a medical issue, you want to, state, like, well, depending on what stage you're at. If you're dealing with employment security, it's good to be as candid and open about what the medical issues are. That information should be kept confidential. And then under HIPAA, how much does one need to state in an appeal letter? Well, health privacy rules are there to protect you against people using your information. But if you're appealing an unemployment denial based on medical issues, you have the right to reveal the medical information or the reasons there, because it's your information. So, but there's not a necessity to go into detail. I think general information would be enough to get an appeal. And in the hearing, the judge would swear you in, and you would be able to testify about what it is. And the judges tend to not be unnecessarily intrusive into the medical information. It's just enough to know that perhaps there was a good reason for quitting the job. Let's see here. There's a question: what are the best times to contact our offices? Our offices, we have basically 9 to 5 Monday through Friday hours, but we are inundated with hundreds of calls a day. So what's important to do is, call during business hours, leave a message, leave your name, a good phone number, and a good time we can reach you, and make sure your phone is on in that time period. All right. Thank you very much. That will come to the end of our weekly webinar, and we will be back next Monday for another Unemployment Law Project webinar. Thank you very much.